Hi everybody, I'm Chris. Welcome to Board on the Floor. Today we're going to take a look at how I could improve some of the storage solutions I have right now for Solomon Kane. When the seller shipped the box to me, he had taken out all of the trays that came in some of the bigger boxes for the minis and just wrapped them in bubble wrap. There's 2 trays in there that have all the little ones, but the larger ones ended up just coming that way. So after unwrapping them and taking them out, I no longer have kind of a way to put them back in the box without just rewrapping them in all that bubble wrap. So I thought I would go upstairs and take a look at all of the extra little pieces of cardboard I have from things I've done with my daughters to see if I could build a little tray that could kind of hook them all in. I always seem to save little bits and pieces of boxes and cardboard and stuff like that. So I have a bit of a pile upstairs of different things I'm going to use to try and build this thing. I'll say that this version will be kind of the prototype just because I'm going to do it fast and kind of sloppy just to see if it could actually work. And if it does work, I might go buy an actual real piece of poster board and do a better version of it. But this is just a scrap piece of poster board and then just some cardboard that I had found inside some of these boxes. Sometimes when you get a game and you open it up, there's pieces of cardboard or foam to pad it. So I have a bunch of that upstairs too. I might use some of that. But I think mostly it's going to be this poster board and some of these little pieces of cardboard. And then I have a little hobby knife here that I'm going to use to cut through it and some school glue. And I have a little like cutting board upstairs that I had used because I did some paper crafts way back when. So that, a nice ruler, and let's see what I can do. First things first, I'm going to take this box and try and measure it to figure out how I could cut a piece to fit right inside. The idea I have is I want to just kind of build a tray that will have little kind of cutouts that each of these minis could slide into. So first thing, measure the size of the box so that it will fit perfectly. It's just going to slide in and out. Also make sure that with the cardboard, as a tray to kind of hold the minis end up not being too tall that they don't fit in the box anymore. Because if you take a look, there's quite a bit of clearance there between the top of the mini and the top of the box. So I think I could even do a couple layers of cardboard before it ends up hitting the top. Once I end up measuring the kind of piece I need, I'm going to cut out the poster board, and then I'm going to place the minis on top to figure out exactly how they would have to be positioned in order to fit all 4 of them into the same tray. I went on to Board Game Geek and I found someone who had created a list of which minis go in which boxes for Solomon Kane, because I don't know if he actually took them out and then repackaged them in the exact same box. But just in case, I went there, I found the list, and so I figured out that these 4 were supposed to be in the Solomon Kane box 3. So there's the 3 riders and then Solomon Kane on horseback. After I cut a piece out of the poster board, I placed them all and kind of reshuffled them until I felt like it was a good placement where all 4 of them can fit, and none of the knives were kind of sticking out in a way that they might be able to break off. I wanted to kind of tuck the knives in to the inside of the box and not have them kind of like sticking out. So once I figured all that out, I took a pencil and I just drew the 4 circles. And then I thought, at first I was going to see if I could put them where they would just drop from the top into it, but then I assumed that that would just keep them loose, like there would be no little kind of nubs to kind of hold them in place. So the idea was to create kind of like a way to slide them in from the sides. After I drew the circle, I just drew some straight lines going to the outside of the cardboard, and I also thought that maybe if I tried to cut those lines at an angle, because the base of all of these minis is kind of angled, that if I slid it in, it would kind of hold it tight. Now, of course, even though I drew those circles and I drew the lines, the measurement was not perfect because as I'm cutting it, I might have the angle wrong. But in the end, the first one I did, I felt like it actually kind of went in pretty tight, but it still wasn't so tight that I don't think it would just kind of jiggle around inside the box. So I took the piece that I'd cut out and I cut 2 smaller pieces off of that and fit them onto the sides to kind of create a lip so that when the mini would slide in, there would kind of be a little bit of a lip there to hold it in place. Now, of course, I didn't want it to be so tight that it might damage the mini, but I kind of edged them in and then I just took some glue and glued them in place. After I managed to cut out all 4 of them and glue in those little kind of lips on top of each one, I had to remember which mini went where, and so I tried them out to see how they would fit, and I was actually pretty surprised that they fit pretty snug, and they didn't really touch one another so much. There was just kind of like a millimeter of space here and there, which was good. After I put them in, I realized that when I went to go pick up the tray to slide it into the box, it was kind of flimsy. The minis did drop a bit because there was no bottom to hold them in place. So I just took 2 little pieces of cardboard I had, and I kind of made a bottom section that I glued to it. It actually made it stronger, and now it gave a bit more, I guess, resistance. It gave a bit more resistance to keep the mini in place. Before they were just kind of floating there, now they kind of had a bottom slab that they could just sit on. So the finished product, where did I put it? Here we go. So this is the amazing little tray that I designed. It is made out of the poster board and some other pieces of cardboard. Not the greatest thing to look at, but if I take each of the minis, you can see how they kind of slide into place. And if you twist them a bit, they kind of lock a bit better. This one's a bit tight. I don't think that's a bad thing because they won't shimmy around much. And it is just kind of a soft poster board that's foam inside, so it's not going to do any damage to the mini itself. So if you take a look, that's the 4 of them on it. Let's see if I could turn it this way and they won't fall out. Yeah. Might be better to turn them this way. But once they're in the actual box here, obviously the side of the box is going to keep them in place. So I'm not too concerned about that. This one is a bit loose, so I probably could put another piece of poster board to kind of tighten it up. The horse's legs are the things that stick out the most. So they are the ones that are kind of butting up against the poster board, and that's what's kind of keeping them snug. But this one's just a bit loose because this piece of poster board is maybe a millimeter too far away. But with them all on the tray, I just, you can see, pretty snug. Pretty good. Now, the only thing I noticed too after I put them in is if this happened to go upside down, they would just kind of fall onto the top. So maybe I'm gonna cut another piece of poster board that's just gonna slide in here to kind of butt up against the top and the bottom to keep the tray in place. But other than that, I'm pretty happy. It's the first time I've ever tried to do something like this for a board game. So even though it kind of looks very crude, it serves its purpose. So most of the pieces I used were things that I probably should have recycled, but I just have a pile of this kind of stuff upstairs. And every once in a while I have an idea for how I can use it, and so that's why I save it. But because I didn't have so much of the poster board, you can see I used some poster board and some cardboard. The cardboard is a bit flimsier, and I'm sure it could easily bend if there was a lot of force put on it. So I might go out and buy another piece of poster board and kind of redo this. Like I said, this was kind of my prototype to see what worked and what didn't, but it only took me probably about 30 minutes to do it. Rebuilding it again isn't going to be that much of a problem. I do have 2 other boxes of minis in Solomon Kane that need a tray like this. One of them though, I think the original had 2 layers, so I don't know if they'll all fit back in with just one tray like this, but I'll figure something out. If worse comes to worse and one mini ends up just sitting in the box, there's a bottom part of one of the trays for tokens that I'm sure you could fit a mini in there and it would be protected on all sides. I could always build a mini tray like this for that and just slide it in. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Though it does look pretty crude, like I said. There are some inserts that you could buy online that actually do stuff like this, but I find, if you're buying a game for $100 and an insert costs you $60, it might be a bit much. And building something that's functional but not perfect isn't so hard. So if you have the time to do it and you're not too scared about using a hobby knife, every once in a while when I actually make something, I end up staring at it for a long time because I'm just like, wow, I did it, But then of course I start to analyze it too much and I think, how could I make it better? And in the end, I'll probably end up doing this 4 or 5 times until I think, this is it. I didn't notice this the first time I did it, that I should have added this extra piece here or do it this way. So there you have it, my first custom insert tray for miniatures. Hopefully watching me put this together was helpful on how to or how not to do something like this. Building a custom component for your board game isn't that complicated. You can do it with just leftover cardboard you have sitting around the house. If you have any questions on how I did it or anything else, please leave them in the comments below. And thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time. Take care.